Okay, let's get started learning the American T sound changes. These are really fundamental to the American dialect, so they'll make a great difference in your pronunciation. First, I want to just go through the words in the diagram, repeat, and listen to the different sounds. Time, fact, adventure, vacation, strategy, data, battle, quarter, attempt, strategic. Okay, now let's go through each of these sounds one by one and understand when and how to create the sound. The first one is the regular T. This is the somewhat breathy T sound. We use this sound when T is the first letter in a word or when it's next to a consonant, such as the spellings CT or ST. Time, fact. Another thing that happens is when we have the spelling TU, we sometimes change this to a ch sound. We say adventure or nature. Another very common one, which you probably already know, is that TI often sounds like sh, especially in suffixes like shun in vacation. Now the next one is the one that's most important. This is that Americans change T into a light D sound when it comes between two vowel sounds. Sounds, not spellings. So you have to be careful of those silent letters throughout the English language. When it comes between two vowel sounds. Strategy, data. A couple of extra rules that go along with this. The spellings TTLE, so vowel, TTLE, and vowel RT, vowel. With these spellings, we also change T into D. That spelling LE really sounds like ul. That's why it's natural for us to say battle or bottle, my bottle of water. And the same thing happens in words like quarter or shorter. But ultimately it's unnatural for us to use this T as a D when T is on the stress in a word. So we do say attempt, strategic. Okay, now you've learned the basic rules. I'm going to go through 3 questions that my students often ask. Number 1, is changing T to a D casual? The answer is no. It is fundamental to the American dialect, which means that public speakers, everyone on TV, basically, will change T into a D. It's just our dialect, and in fact, if we speak T as a T in words like water, if we say water, it sounds a bit British to us. It sounds sort of wrong, because we're not supposed to sound British. So it really is just part of our dialect, not casual at all. Now the second question people often ask me is, well, I already have an accent, so will people understand me if I change T into a D? And the answer here is yes. And this is partly for the same reason I just mentioned. It's part of our dialect. So this is the sound we expect. When we see the word water, we expect that D sound in the middle. One extra note though, this is an unconscious sound for us, meaning that when we're going to school, when we're little kids, when we're going to school, we're taught that T sounds like T. But we also hear everyone around us, and we learn to speak it as D in these places. So it's kind of unconscious, meaning that if you talk to an American about this, you might even have to explain it because the person might not realize. So, but it is unconscious and really expected. People will understand you if you speak this way, and you will also sound more casual and more fluent. Now, the third question people often ask is this a true D? Can I say, is it a strong D? Can I say something like D? So the answer here is no. The American D sound isn't too strong anyway. And this sound is a little bit of a balance between strong and soft. So this one is incorrect. D. This one too is incorrect. D. This is correct. D. So you have to find that balance, that place in between the strong and soft. Okay, that completes this introduction to the American T sounds. Now, let's study two very important sounds, R and L. First, I want to talk about how to make each sound. The R sound is made with the tongue. The tongue becomes a little bit tense. For many people, the front of the tongue comes up. For some people, the sides of the tongue come up. But overall, the tongue gets a little tense, and this creates some constriction where the tongue meets the throat. And that's where the R sound, the English R, really comes from. The sound R. So we often teach this as a growling sound when we teach it to kids, like the growl of a dog or cat. R. So it is okay. You should feel some tension in the throat. Now L is exactly the opposite. The tongue is quite relaxed, and it simply presses that ridge behind the upper teeth lightly. La, la. For Americans, it presses in about the same place as T, D, and N. You can say ta, da, na, la. Okay, so those are the two sounds. Now let's study a few sound rules that go along with these. And some of them, in some ways, R and L are the same, and in some ways they're different. In one way, they are the same. This is that Americans tend to put a little sound between a consonant and R, or a consonant and L. Let's practice with these words. Progress, gridlock, cluster, blacklist. For my private students, using that little sound often helps with articulating R or L too. Another rule that goes with R and L is that we tend to pronounce the endings quite simply. So with R, we have the common endings OR, ER, and AR. With L, we have the endings LE, EL, and AL. In each category, the sound is the same. Let's practice a few words. Error, buffer, dollar. So even though the spellings are different, the final sound is the same. now L. Hustle, level, final. So again, different spellings, but the same sound at the end. Another thing that we do is we sometimes put a little extra sound in front of a final R or L when there's a longer vowel preceding it. Just listen to these words. Career, sales. We can say the sales department sells furniture. So you notice sales is a lot longer than sell or sells. So those are a few basics. Good thing to know is that Americans pronounce all R's, so no matter where R is in the word. But we do have a few silent L's. So try these words. Percent, merger, silent L's, would, talk. Okay, so that's an overview of R and L sounds. I want to do one more thing before we finish. And I want to talk about the words pearl, girl, and world. These words are hard for so many people, so let me teach you a little tip on how to say them. When we have R and L next to each other, here's another place where Americans naturally need a little extra sound. So, the words pearl, girl, and world will sound almost like two syllables. Pearl, girl, world. Okay? So if you let yourself put a little extra sound between R and L, and even let the word be a little longer, almost like it's two syllables, though really technically they are each one syllable. Let that word be long, and then you can articulate both R and L. Let's try it one more time. Pearl, girl, world. Okay, that completes this lesson on R and L sounds.